Welcome back to the Camino Coach Show, where we dive into the mindset of the fastest racers on the planet. Today's guest has a name that every Moto3 fan should know, Australia's own Joel Kelso. From racing mini bikes in Darwin to taking on the world's best in Moto3, Joel's journey has been anything but ordinary. Heading into his fourth season in the class, he's looking sharper than ever with his new team Up MTA. After finishing inside the top 6 at the official Portimão test, Joel is ready to prove he's got what it takes to fight at the front all season. And right now we're catching up with Joel as he's packing his bags for the first round in Thailand. We'll talk to him about his killer qualifying performance, his lightning fast starts, and how he mentally prepares for the year ahead. And as always, if you enjoy the chat, please like, subscribe and share, as this allows us to keep bringing you more incredible stories from the world of racing. So strap in, hold tight and get ready, because this one's going to be a good one. Okay, so today we're here with Joel Kelso. Hi Joel, how are you?
Good, thanks mate. How are you? Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. I'm good. And how's your off-season been?
Mate, it's been good. It's been eventful off-season for sure. We were back in Oz for quite a bit of time, and we did a lot of training there on the dirt bikes this time with the motocross and all that. It's just more accessible in Australia to do the motocross and the flat track. And we actually rode a lot of the super bike as well, which was fun, going 330k an hour at Phillip Island's a bit different to the Moto3, that's for sure.
Absolutely. It did seem like you spent longer back in Australia this off-season compared to previous. Is that right?
Yeah. I tried to stay as long as possible. I think we stayed until the 17th or something like that in Oz, which was good because normally we come back at the start of January. But like I said, I was doing heaps of training there. I got to ride the super bike heaps, so there was no real rush to come back to the freezing cold here. And yeah, I mean Spain and all that where I live in Barcelona is great, but I think you can maximize the most out of the summer in Australia, and now I've got a good organization back in Oz with all the training camp. The trainer that I use in Australia is really great with organizing everything and just setting up always riding and training going on. So it's like my own little training camp in Oz. That's which has always been hard to get for Aussies. It's not very accessible in the past to be able to do it, and now to be able to run my own, because I was running my own track days for giving kids possibility to ride. So rented out the tracks for me and the younger kids. So it's kind of like giving back to young folks as well. And yeah, I think that was really great to do, and I think all the young kids appreciated it, and I think they also got a lot out of it.
Yeah, superb. That's great to be setting up that organization. Showing the pathway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like the thing is I knew how difficult it was for me when I was a kid and trying to get on the bike as much as possible, and even such as getting your parents to come so far driving down. So even the person Maxwell that I'm working with in Australia for doing the training stuff like that is he drove some of the kids' bikes across, so his parents didn't have to come, and people didn't miss out. So just little things like that I think was great possibility to be able to ride more. Obviously I got to do heaps more training as well because it's a big bike, so it was a win-win situation, and yeah, it was really great.
Super, super. So if we actually go backwards and we go back to your, sort of setting off, take yourself back to the age of those kids that you've been helping out. When was the moment that you knew that you wanted to race motorcycles for a living?
Honestly, it just happened. It's one of the things you end up just falling into this sport and falling in love with it. And yeah, I mean, we started off with the dirt bikes like we spoke about in the past, and yeah, we did the dirt bike scenery until yeah, we got the opportunity to do some road bike, which for me at that time I never even watched the road bike racing. Like if you asked me past 2010, let's say, I wouldn't have, or 2000 even 12, I wouldn't really have much recognition of racing back in the day, because on the road bikes I never watched it. I watched this, I grew up watching supercross and a flat track and all that sort of stuff. And then as soon as I did one day on the road bike, I knew that was the sport I wanted to do. It was just so much different. It was one of them sports that you couldn't just be gritty and go as hard as you can. It was one of them sports you had to take time and learn, and every year you develop that little bit. And yeah, I feel like I got my ceiling in flat track and all that, and then yeah, it was time to make that move to the road racing scene, which helped us be able to arrive to where we are today. And I still think the reason for being here today is because of the flat track scenery and what helped me learn my skills there. But yeah, I'm happy to be on this pathway to now helping the younger kids do that transition, because a lot of them are also coming from the flat track into the road bike scenery now.
What age? Because you made the step to move across to Europe, which is a massive step for any young racer. But what age were you when you actually decided that you needed to be in Europe?
Yeah, so I won the Moto3 championship in Australia at 15, and pretty much at the end of that year, well, the start of the season over here, the winter, was 15 years old when I first moved over here. So it was a big step, that's for sure, is jump out of the waters and move across this other side of the world to only be 15, 16 years old is pretty incredible. And it looks like every year it's more and more like that, though. You got to be so young moving across here. If not, you get here too late.
And what was the hardest part of adapting from the Australian scene to the European racing scene?
Even to this day, it's probably not having every person you can call and say, "Hey, I need that," or "We need to do that next weekend," because it's the other side of the world. So we didn't grow up with everything here. Like, example, little things like can't even put things in my name, so you can't buy stuff. You can't set up a base as much here. So it's kind of like, imagine living out of your suitcase but trying to run a race team and racing bikes. It's because that was what we did. We ran our own team the first year, and pretty much living out of a suitcase, but we somehow owned a truck from Ireland and owned some bikes from Italy and a little bit of parts from Spain, just a bit of everywhere. And so you like living out of a suitcase, but trying to run your whole life as well and run other people's life as well. So it's that was probably the biggest challenge, and even to this day is that you're still trying to run a separate life, but without owning anything. So it's like, yeah, it makes things a little bit more difficult. That's for sure.
So you're on sort of permanent vacation. It feels that you're visiting.
Exactly. I feel like you're on holiday half the time, and then you got to be at home though. Like, it's like you got to set it as a base, but you don't feel like it's home because you're still living out of a suitcase.
Yeah. So you had to fight your way into Moto 3, into the World Championship. And what was the biggest obstacles that have nearly stopped you? Because everyone has those points where they go, they're at a crossroads. Do we continue or not?
Yeah, well, just touching on that though, is before we go into what the struggles were, is yeah, do you see Malcolm Stewart won the Supercross the other week, and he won the 250 championship, right? And after he moved into the 450s, but he never went into a factory team, and for a while, when the people he was versing were winning championships or winning races, and he's done hundreds or something starts and hasn't got a race win ever. And then yeah, the other week he finally got it, and it was one thing that he said was, all the harder moments made for the greater moments, and just keeping that grit and moving through and be able to use that strength of not having everything given to you on a platter was a helpful thing for him. And the reason why I'm starting off with that is because, as you know, when moved from the junior world championship to world championship, we didn't go into the top team or the factory team, even though we got 4 victories in the junior world championship and were there fighting. It was just one of them years, and as you know, in the motorsport, it's a matter of timing in this world. And you can end up at the top team, or you can end up at the lowest level team, let's say, for just pot luck, really, of timing, not luck. It's more just the timing of it. And yeah, so we stepped up to world championship, and the challenges started there because we weren't in the top team, let's say, and I think everyone's aware of that. It's just a little bit less budget of a team, and obviously not a factory supported team. And then you're already pushing the limits there because you want to beat the people that you've beaten before, from the year before. And you're on an uphill battle, and we had some injuries, some bad luck there as well, with just getting taken out. And they were probably the hardest challenge we faced, because we broke with 2 or 3 broken legs in a year and a half, and that's a big impact. And on a normal life it wouldn't be that bad, but on a life in World Championship, or even when I was in Junior World Championship, wouldn't be that bad. But now in World Championship, with having a race every week or every second week, yeah, you miss 3 or 4 races, because you take 5 or 6 weeks off the bike each time, and that's you miss out on a lot of track time at that time, and also you lose the possibility of maybe stepping up to a better team. So it's been an uphill battle, and not saying we haven't been in the greatest teams, because I think I've been in some great teams now and stuff like that. It's just not the same as being in a factory team, of course, as everyone would know. But at the end, I think it's starting to pay off. Last year was a really good breakthrough year that we didn't have any injuries, and we didn't let's say make any major mistakes. We made some mistakes, but only mistakes that we can learn from, so which was great. And now we're stepped up to a really strong team, a strong budget backing team. I think the knowledge from this team and the results I've put in the past has now aligned us here. And after the good results last year, we've managed to find ourselves here. And I think this season can be a great one for us to build off what we did last year as well.
Every rider has that one I've arrived moment. I'm supposed to be here. Your elbows go a little bit wider, your shoulders are a little bit taller, purely and simply that you feel like you belong. What was that sort of turning moment for you, a race or a result that have you truly believing that you needed to be in the paddock?
Yeah, it would have been when I first got my podium in Phillip Island in Australia. Honestly, a lot of weight got lifted off the shoulders at that moment, and you can really ride more free. And honestly, you don't even really think that, but internally you must do, because you just start riding differently. It's just everything comes a lot easier. You walk around the paddock a lot easier, because you just know, you've already got that podium under your belt. And I think that lifts a lot of pressure off you, and without riding with that pressure, you have the possibility of doing better results.
And let's talk about that, 2023 Phillip Island. I mean, your first podium is on home soil. Just talk us through that race, those final laps, and what it meant to you.
Yeah, well, it's just one of the things is every year did great there, and then we fought for the front row. We got the front row. That was the first thing, and then after we obviously managed to get the podium, which was just incredible. Like it was mixed conditions. It was horrible conditions. Sorry, and then I just had to ride out the race, but it was one of them races that you can't really look back on. Why? Because the whole race just went so fast. But suddenly there was 2 laps to go, and I went, "Oh, I'm in the podium here in my home GP." It's hard to explain when you're in one of them moments where it just comes, and you don't actually think about it. You don't even realize you're in that moment until you've already got the result, and you're like, "Oh, gee whiz, I've just got a podium in my home GP."
So the whole Grand Prix, even though it's sort of like 35 minutes, felt like 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. You remember the start, and then you don't remember anything else until the last couple of laps. I made a little mistake, and then that's when I kind of like set in. I went, "Oh, I'm in a podium here. Let's just bring this home," And there was 2 laps to go, whatever.
Fantastic. Best feeling in the world, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, the last 2 laps were the longest 2 laps of my life, that's for sure. But other than that, was great.
Good, good, good. I mean, Moto 3's renowned for being, the most ruthless class in racing. So being sharp under pressure, and you're now into a few seasons under your belt, what do you think it actually takes to be running at the front compared to the guys that are sort of mid-pack? What are you having to bring to constantly be running in that top five?
Probably the biggest thing I've learnt is all the 2 percenters. Everyone in the world championship level is at such a high level. Everyone's fit. Everyone's doing the same, good training, or if not the same training, because we all train together as well at one moment or another. And I think it's finding them 2 percenters around the racing that makes the difference between being the mid pack or even in the back, last pack, to be in the front is the mindset of being able to find them 2 percenters and be able to let's say identify your issues and try to work on them. Because if you're working on them, that's the 2% that the other people are not doing. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned. And then yeah, and them 2 percenters can become in anything, But for me, was working on the mentality side of things and just riding more clearly, but also at the same time with that, working on the mindset, also not getting too held up into it, and just going with the flow and enjoying the progress of learning, because it's not one of the things that you can learn overnight. And I think a lot of the time with that, you learn it actually from experiences and stuff like that. So obviously it takes a bit of time, but it's about enjoying that progress. But yeah, when you really see the 2% is adding up to all of a sudden you're 10% better, it's a great feeling, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's that small attention to detail, isn't it? The big picture, everybody at the level, and it's all in perspective. So if you're racing in British Superbikes or in Moto America, or everybody at your level is doing the same things.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's then the small details that make the differentiators, isn't it? It's the small details that you recognize in, areas of improvement and development.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a mate of mine in another championship, don't want to call him out just in case he doesn't want to, but like we've been working in together, doing some training together. I took him to one of the blokes that I use as well in Australia to prepare for the race weekends and prepare for not only that, like as in for the training side of things as well, like physical training. And all of a sudden he was winning races before, but not as consistently. And now, now it's just the second weekend in a row that is winning by like 6 or 8 seconds, just by making, because he's probably done 5% more training than anyone else and what he's ever done in the past, and more consistently. He's done 5% more on the mental side of things that he's ever done before, and 50% more than what anyone else has done in that championship. Obviously, like at my level in World Championship, there's more people doing it, and most of them are, but that's the difference between being the top seven, or in the back, because the people in the back probably aren't doing that sort of stuff. So, but with him was a prime example, because you could see it, like as in with me, I noticed you see it, but it's like, you see little glimpses of it, you see little results, you see every year that little step. But with him was like a massive transition in within like a few months, even though like I said, he was getting podiums and race wins before. It was not as consistently, and now he's just dominating the field.
Yeah, no, it's a strong aspect to it for sure, and as you're saying that the you feel then that you've got an advantage over the guys that you're lining up against if you've um, left no stone unturned. So you've done everything you possibly can to be at your best. Is a natural confidence booster, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And like, especially when you're younger, if you imagine I did it, 6 or 7 years ago, and was more in depth and more aware of, imagine where you could be, so it's one of the things that you're definitely making a step above the others.
And it's an area that's like, we're just going to drill a bit deeper into it because it's an area that's neglected. Because I mean, my thoughts are that it's an area that's neglected because people are good at riding a motorbike. So they're good at riding a bike, hence they got themselves through. So they don't actually feel like they necessarily need anything else other than being able to ride a bike. When do you
Yeah.
think that sort of tipping point happens where people go, actually, I need more to my game. I need more tools in my toolbox.
Think it comes when the results get a bit harder, and when you realize you can't lean on your talent, and that's about it, and I think you see it a lot of times. There's riders out there that are super talented and stuff, and then at the end they're just making mistake after mistake. And since they're not critical on themselves, as in not critical as in being hard on yourself, but critical as where am I losing this? What's making me do this? And I think that's the biggest difference, because after they don't realize what their mistakes are that they continue making, and then that's when they either try to find something, or if not, then they're normally 1 or 2 years more, and then they're nowhere, because the results just can't come from one thing anymore, especially when everyone's setting the level higher and higher every year. Like a prime example, we were here last year. Alonso won the world championship, obviously. Portugal, the lap times were more than half a second faster than that record from one year to another. So from preseason to preseason, every year is the same. But my prime example is the level's getting higher every year because people are doing bigger and better things every season.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest strengths that you've got is qualifying. And qualifying is that real magnification of being precise, being accurate, and executing your plan. How do you manage it? Has it always been a strength of yours, or is it something that you've developed?
Um, Honestly, it just came to us because we never really were that great at the beginning. We're always great at riding alone and being able to do laps alone. So I think it's that aspect of things as well because most of our qualifyings are alone, and you have to be able to do the lap time alone to be able to be consistently in that good qualifying position. Once off is whatever you can do. A good qualifying, but to be consistently there is important, and it was just one of the things I learned, and I think I work really well under pressure for qualifying because I know it's just relying on myself. There's no outside factors. It's kind of just you're out on that bike and going as fast as you can for one lap, and knowing that believing that you can do the result, and I know I can. So it's always came a bit easier for sure.
Because it can be chaos. We know that Moto 3's got this, where people are waiting for a tow, and you come around the corner and there's, 10 bikes all lined up, off the line, hopefully. um, do you have a technique that allows you to get your own space and be in so you're just concentrating on yourself?
Yeah, it's difficult because in Moto 3, the people can follow you as well, especially in the qualifying session, normally when you're the fastest, and that's the issue for us we have. But it's one of the things about focusing on yourself and just, I think it was a prime example in Thailand, not last year, the year before that. We did the front row, and there was about 15 bikes behind us, but we just pushed on, and somehow they couldn't stay. And all of a sudden we did the fastest lap, and they didn't even come within, near of us. And it was one thing, just self belief in yourself and going out there and just giving it everything. And obviously, you can't always tow around the people, but at that moment, I felt really strong. So I thought if I go hard enough, they won't be able to stay, and that's how it turned out. So it's always strategy in Moto 3, as you know. You got to be able to work within the moment, and every race weekend's different. And I think that's the thing. You got to be really adaptable in Moto 3 and be able to change around your plane and be able to still get your maximum because you got to be able to do a lap. You see, sometimes they don't even get a lap in qualifying because they're too busy worrying about the others. So you have to worry about the others, but at the same time, be able to strategize to still be able to get yourself that possibility of showing what you can do.
And one of your other strengths is your race starts. You're always consistently one of the best starters, and obviously if you had a really great qualifying, that maximizes your potential. So again, what's your clarity or your game plan for the start of the race?
Honestly, I think the reason for that is from the flat track and motocross as a kid because it's one of the clutch control things that you got to be really good at. You got to feather that clutch for the perfect RPM because a certain amount of power, and I think it's that, and also probably just understanding that there's many kids out there that will arrive to the world championship level that don't even understand where a bike gives the maximum power. Maybe they think that it's at the top of the RPM where it's bouncing off the limiter, which, so it's just simple things like that. And yeah, I think I've just been good at it from the dirt track, and you don't have the RPM in front of you, but you got to just listen to the bike and the engine underneath you and be able to get grip on that dirt. So I think that's really helped us a lot in our career, and we've made some really good race starts from that and helped us in our racing for sure.
And that turn one, which is always again a bit of a chaotic in any class, but Moto 3 as well. Um, your your focus at that point is to try and get to the front. I mean, generally, I know it'll be specific to certain races, but generally, what's your focus?
It's difficult because if you're starting in the back, you kind of just got to go crazy and kind of do like a leap of faith. luckily, like I said, we're qualifying quite good normally, and we're not regularly in the back or even in the middle of the pack. Normally, we're out the front, so I try not to think about it too much because I definitely don't enjoy being in the middle or the back for the race starts for that exact reason. Turn one, turn two is hectic, and I think the chances of getting in some mishap, let's say, is quite high if you're in the back. So I try to be at the front as much as possible, and try to avoid that because like it's one of the things like qualifying. When you're riding alone, you can control what you're doing, but when you're in the middle of the pack, you got to try to worry about, well, not worry about, you just got to be aware of the other 15 or 20 bikes around you.
Yeah, so it's more chaotic. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
more,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
more things to deal with.
Mm-mm.
So, looking forward to this season. You've moved to the Level Up MTA squad. How does that feel? Why is that outfit sort of where you need to be this season?
Look, honestly, it's one of the things. The team, I think, is a great environment. I have a great connection with the team owner, Alessandro Tanucci, obviously an ex-rider himself, and understanding the racing world. And he raced in Moto3, Moto2 World Championship, so he has a good understanding. And then obviously they have great backing from Level Up. It's great to have their support and make give us a possibility to be able to fight at the front, I think, and be able to give the bike and the materials the possibility. And I think we're just coming off a really good season as well last year. So we're in a really good moment in our career to be able to make a really, really strong season before stepping up to Moto 2. And I think we have all the cards in place to be able to fight for sure. And now it's just a matter of time of about getting out there and giving it a crack. And it's a long season and just making it happen, really.
So that was going to be the next question. Actually, is how different does this pre-season feel? Do you feel like this is your best version of Joel Kelso yet?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think the best version of myself, but that's coming off the last couple of years of learning from mistakes and building from it. It's not just a matter of that I did more training. It's a matter of I got more experience from last year. We did great results last year. We learnt a lot, and yeah, we're just using what we learnt and making steps forward every single weekend because of that, and we feel stronger because of that. Even down to the fitness and the training. The reason why we feel stronger this year is just because what we learnt last year about different ways of training that I feel better with and my body adapts better with.
We talked a little bit like the next step, earlier when you were saying about the next step to Moto 2. What is the goal? Where do you want to be in, say, 5 years' time?
So I have like a 3-year plan, and the goal is to, well, four if you count this year, obviously, is yeah, try to fight for that championship this year, at least be in that top three, and just be there and be able to fight with the factory teams and be able to really put up that challenge to them and make it their life difficult, and yeah, obviously with that comes great results with podiums and whatever, because if you're fighting at the front, that's what you get. And then yeah, step up to Moto 2 is definitely on the cards. We need to make that step up, and it's I think it's one of the things that will suit our riding style a little bit better as well, as in we train on the super bike, and we're quite fast on the super bike. We feel good on the super bike, and I think that bigger bike with more power underneath you to be able to show you your true potential is greater on the Moto 2. So get them results and then secure a good spot in Moto 2, do a year of learning there, and then obviously go for it again that second year. But I don't like to predict too much because anything can happen in this racing world, and our plan definitely wasn't to stay 4 years in Moto 3, but at the end it was like that. And yeah, we just got to work from there and learn off every opportunity, but definitely step to Moto 2 the following season is a high priority for us, and be able to get them results to be eventually into the Moto GP class for sure.
MotoGP teams are always watching. They're always keeping an eye on the other classes. What do you think you need to prove this season to be able to help you make those jumps?
I think just race results, to be honest with you, mate. Hard and critical on yourself is one important thing, and I think, as you could be aware, is that the lack of race results, it has not been good enough. Just because one thing led to another. We weren't great enough in the race. We weren't there at the last 2 laps to fight. Unfortunately, we were there for 15 out of the 17 laps, but the last 3 laps we just won't be able to manage it with the tyres. So that's got to change this season, and it will. And we're already going to make that happen. But yeah, I think they will be looking out for that for sure. And like I said, it's going to happen this year. We're going to make that change, and it's going to work out better in our favour for sure. But I think, yeah, we've got 90% challenge done. We just need to finish the last 10% of the race.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you say, a strong weekend's about putting it all together, and you're getting all those pieces in place. Just having a look at the tyres, the difference between the Dunlop that obviously was running up until 2024, and was this sort of everyone got used to, and what the characteristics of that bike, to then what the Pirellis brought. They've obviously brought faster lap times, but they've also brought other aspects to them to the race as well, haven't they?
Yeah, it's great with the Pirelli coming in was perfect for me because it made riding alone more accessible and more possible, and relies more on the rider because also you have tire life that comes in, and I think that's great with learning that already in Moto3 and Moto2 going to MotoGP. It's a really big step and will make it a lot easier, I think, when you step up already. So I think the Pirelli tires when they came in were a great step and have been proven to be a lot faster, a lot better, and make for better racing in the MotoGP.
What's your favourite circuit on the Moto3 calendar?
Well, let's say Australia because that's a home GP. But other than that, would have to be one of the Asia races. I always get asked this question. It's hard to pick because I really enjoy all the Asia and USA and outside of Europe tracks. I really enjoy them all. If I had to put one, it'd probably be Thailand. Honestly, we really enjoy. So first race of the season. And then in Europe, I think would definitely have to be Portugal. Is one of the favourites. We got our first race win there, and we're just always strong there, no matter what. We're in a bad moment, and we're still fast there. I think it's just because you can't really be upset at Portugal because you're up and down, you're jumping over the hill. It's good fun to ride there, and I think I go fast when I'm enjoying myself.
And a bit of Phillip Island sort of on steroids, isn't it? When you get to put them out.
Exactly, especially with the wind at Philippine is pretty similar to Portugal as well.
So my next question was actually related to the flyaways. A lot of people are really strong in Europe and then disintegrate in their performance when they get to tracks that they only get to once a year. For you, it's the other way around. You actually go into the end of the season seems to be your peak, in performance. You enjoy those fresh tracks, if you want to call it that way.
Yeah, I mean, without being too hard on the guys in Europe at the end, it's a given, no? There's all of the people from outside of Europe, even America, Australia, Indonesia, all them guys do better in Asia, and there's no question to why. It's because you know we're used to living out of our suitcase and out of home and being in a different country and being in a strange environment. The kids over here have grown up doing 50,000 laps at Jerez, let's say, where we're going testing in a couple of days. You know, and I didn't come over and race Jerez until the first time at 16 years old. So they've got 12 or 13 years experience more than me at that track, and I think not really about the experience, more is about they like being at home and in comfort, and that's the lifestyle of them is that they still live at home at 18 or 20 years old even, and for us we moved over, like I said, at 15 and completely alone at the side of the world. And to be honest with you, when I was in Australia, I was already moved out of home at 14 or 13 years old, because where I live in Australia, the family up in the Northern Territory, up in the top of Australia, doesn't have the possibility of riding very much. So I moved down to Melbourne myself with a good mate of mine, Jake, and started living my own life down there at 14 or even 13 years old. I was traveling down there. So it's one of the things we're used to being out of home, and I think that's why we can adapt better. We feel, because like we said, there's no real base or there's no home except for actually home in Australia, so or wherever the other person's from, and yeah, everything feels like home for us now, kind of thing. It's one of the things we feel at home now in Europe, more or less. Let's say we feel at home in Asia because it's a life on wheels for us, and for them, a home is here because all their races are here. They they go from one race and they go home to their mum is, cooking it on a Sunday night. We're away for, maybe 4 or 5 months at a time before I go back to Oz in the middle of the year and get to see the family. So for me, be a month out of home racing bikes uh, is the same as being a month in Asia, because it's the same as being here, So I think that's the reason behind it, and it's pretty obvious it's that as well, because most of the boys from outside of Europe do better in the Asia races, and I think also adding on that is the tracks are the same for everyone. Like, as in, no one's ridden there more amount of times. Like, I haven't ridden, Thailand more than what anyone else in Europe has, or that's been in the same time in World Championship as me. So it makes a more even playing field for sure.
And what are you like with new tracks? Do you actually like the challenge of a new track?
Yeah, and I think that also plays into it. The new track, obviously, the European boys would be a little bit worse because they've grown up with all these same tracks. I've grown up now in two different countries of two different tracks in, like, as in two countries that have a possibility of 7 or 8 tracks in each one. So I've already been at 20 tracks more than what they have in their life. So it's that possibility of adapting faster and being able to get a feeling and know where the fast parts of the track are and how to make time on a certain track when the others couldn't.
Okay, so dream scenario now. If you could race against any rider in history from any era, who would your favourite be to race against?
Probably, if I could choose three, would be Mick Doohan, Troy Bayliss, and Marcus, because all of them three together would be just awesome to share the track and race with them, and I think it makes it for some great racing as well, especially in the right moment.
I was going to say that's going to be a tough old race.
Yeah. So, and they're also idols of mine, and obviously, yeah, you want to race against your idols and see where you compare against them.
Exactly. So, who is your number one favourite rider? Would it be a motocross or supercross rider, or would it be somebody on tarmac these days?
On the road would probably be for racing itself, like as in being on the bike, would be Mark Marquez, of course, because he's always setting new boundaries. And then for a person, I think would probably be either Troy Bayliss or Mick Doohan, just because of the their look at life and how they're giving back to the sport, and always so kind with the people and stuff like that. And then in the motocross would probably be Ricky Carmichael. I've always grown up watching Ricky Carmichael, and I'm hoping to meet him when we go to watch the Supercross before the USA GP. For us, we get to go to watch out there. Alpine Star invited me out, so it'd be great to go to watch the Supercross there. But yeah, these would be my top idols. I think they just have done so much for the sport. Also, they've showed so much new pathways. Marquez is creating the new riding style. Marquez is always setting the new level. So I think these people are great examples.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's they're icons for a reason, aren't they?
Exactly.
And it'll be an interesting season in Moto GP this season, I think.
Yeah, it sure will be. It sure will be. I think Marquez on the Ducati will be bloody fast. That's for sure on the factory.
Absolutely. So, and what's a guilty pleasure? So we know that training's a massive part of the sport now, and physical fitness and diet. But what about if you're not training? You've got that window of I can relax. What's a guilty pleasure?
To be honest with you, mate, I love a good a good, like, lunch or whatever with all the guys, and really enjoy just having a laugh with everyone, disconnect and being back to the let's say, not the athlete and not the person we have to be behind, in front of people, and we get to be ourselves behind closed doors is always a great pleasure. I love going back to Oz and in the summer break or in the end of the year, and really enjoy with all my mates at home, and yeah, have some fun, I guess.
So, if you had to describe Moto 3 in 3 words, how would you describe it?
Eventful, crazy, rough. Because the rough is like, not, what's a different word for rough, like as in maybe unpredictable. Because you never know. One moment you can be, first, or you can be 10th, in one straight. So they would probably be the three things that keep Moto3 interesting. I think that's why everyone loves Moto3 almost the most. Stefan now, obviously, the new MotoGP sprint race is pretty incredible. But before that, Moto3 was the show because of how close racing it was.
And if you weren't racing motorcycles for a living, what would you be doing?
Well, I'd probably still be into something with the motorsports because I love motorsports, obviously. So I'd probably be doing something with managing riders and something like that, or maybe running my own team would be cool. So yeah, probably something along them lines.
Okay. Yeah, is that maybe a goal when you finally do hang up your leathers? Is to run a team?
Yeah, once we've made a few millions and we can live a good life, would be nice to have our own race team. That's for sure.
Yeah, good. So one thing I did want to ask you, Joel, was you've got kids that are watching you in Australia or worldwide, and you've got them going, I want to be where Joel is. Okay, they want to get to the World Championship. What advice would you give to a young rider that's got aspirations to try and get to the World Championship?
Probably the biggest advice I can give is be persistent. Don't give up at your first rocky patch, let's say, and always, if your goal is to arrive to a certain place, always work to arrive there. Don't give up straight away. You got to be in this sport very, very persistent, because all it takes is one injury, and then you got to get through that injury and come out on the other side even better. And I think just being persistent is one way to always be moving forward and making steps forward, and you eventually arrive to your goal without even realizing. Like myself, I arrived without even realizing, just by staying persistent over so many years, and then finally got the opportunity, and then just kept going with that.
And is that a solo outlook, or do you need support to be able to reinforce that outlook?
No, for sure you need people around you, good people around you to help you through that, and maintain the same outlook and same goal. But a lot of it is from yourself, being strong with yourself, and continue believing in yourself, believing in your goals, and continue working, and also putting the right people around you. That's one of the things about being persistent, and learning from what mistakes you have made, maybe by not having the people around you. You bring on people more on board to help you achieve your goal.
Perfect. Well, that's great advice. I'm sure anybody watching this will take it to heart. So, how do people follow you this season? What's your social media?
Yeah. Follow me on all the socials, Joel Kelso 66, or on Facebook, Joel Kelso Racing, and keep up to date from this year's results.
Perfect. And then we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the goal for 2025, you're into your fourth season, and you're feeling like this is your best version of yourself. What is the goal that you're striving for this season?
Yeah, top three in that championship, and fight for that championship. That's the goal. Is be at least fighting for that championship this year for sure. So top three, and be able to be within the chance of winning the title, let's say.
Okay, well, we wish you all the best of luck. It's been fantastic to meet up with you today, and have a great season.
Appreciate it, mate. Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to the Camino Coach Show. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to share it with your friends, like and subscribe on YouTube, and leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Your support helps us keep bringing you amazing stories from the racing world.